past haunts us all, whether it be a person, place, or thing. We are reluctant to let go. We call to the dead out of desperation and intrigue, searching for answers about what lies behind the shadows. We are paranormal researchers. We are Necromancers. Hello, and welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. I am your host, Justin Brown, and welcome to episode 48 with Dina Rae. Before we introduce Dina, we're going to go over to the guest screen and introduce our co-hosts and chat moderators for this evening, Missy Vastine and Jessica Bias. How are you ladies doing this evening? Well, this whole Facebook issue has got me perturbed a little bit. Do you see the live stream on Facebook working? Okay. Let me go back to it and let me refresh this and see if I can get it working. Hold on, folks. I had a security issue on Facebook happen right as I started. So I may have to, oh my gosh, it's making me start a whole new Facebook stream. You got to be kidding me, right? Wow. See, this whole thing messed up Facebook. And that's a bummer. So, just give me a moment. Let's see if I can fudge this. But Jessica, how are you doing this evening? You're doing better than me, right? Yeah, just bear with me, folks. Let's see if I can just start a new one and then it'll let me. Let's see if it'll let me do it. A new one. And we will get started with the show. So just give me a few minutes. Show episode number 48 with Dina Rae. So let me go live here. All right. Yeah, people are not going to know if we're live again, so that's pretty bad. Let's see here. Someone just messaged me on Google Hangouts, I think. No, not on Facebook. It's not going to be good. I had to start a new one. So, yeah, the YouTube link is good. So I got to connect chats here. Yeah, this is going to be a big pain in the butt. Accounts. Yeah, it's not, my chat is not connecting with Facebook, so that's going to be a huge problem. I can't see it on my app, so we're going to have to deal with this technical issue. I'm sorry, folks, but we're going to go ahead and introduce Dina Rae. Dina Rae is of Dallas, Texas. Okay, guys. She is a self-proclaimed expert in the conspiracy theories that involve the New World Order, UFOs, and theology. Dina weaves her research about these subject matters with elements of suspense to create her fictional books that include Halo of the Nephilim, Halo of the Damned, The Last Degree, and her new book, The Best Seller. Her insight and knowledge incite interesting dialogue about the shadows of our society and culture. So, without further ado, we're going to, she's not going to be joining us on video call tonight, so we'll just hear her voice, and hopefully that will suffice for you folks. Dina, what's going on? How are you today?
Not so good, huh? With Facebook?
Yeah, I had to start a new stream, so the whole live stream that I scheduled for tonight is not good. So I just started a new one, and the chat from Facebook won't be seen on the screen either. I'm not even seeing the chat working. So let me see if I can fix that real quick. Let's see if I can fix that problem. We'll go over here and see if we can fix it. Yeah, screen. Yeah, the chat's probably broken too. So that's a big bummer. But usually what I do, Dina, is I want to know why you do what you do. What inspired you? What sets you on the path down um, the realm of conspiracy? Start from the beginning.
Well, I was always a suspicious type of person, and I was in college when the first Gulf War was going on, and we got to, for the first time in history, got to watch a war 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through CNN. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember back then, but that was a big deal. And of course, as this war progressed, more and more came out about it. And it, another kind of like another Vietnam type of deal. Like, what are we really doing there? Are we there to get in bed with Kuwait and their oil, or are we really, defending them against poor old Saddam Hussein? So if that didn't like raise a few flags, obviously 10 years later, we've got 9/11 and Bush Jr., the second Bush, I guess he wasn't really a junior, couldn't wait to get back to Iraq again with good old Saddam Hussein. So that really kicked off the whole conspiracy with me, where that pretty much sealed the deal that I don't believe the media anymore on both sides of the aisle, so to speak. I look for as much truth as I can scrape up. I try to watch, all kinds of news besides the major networks. I watch the small networks. I listen to shows on the radio, such as yours. I try to scramble. I try to get a more balanced picture of reality. And as I've been looking for several years now, I'm not alone. There's plenty of people out there doing the same exact thing. And some people call us conspiracy crackpots. Other people would call us thinkers, because I don't really think the truth is out there anymore.
Why do you think the truth isn't out there?
We've just been caught in so much propaganda, especially lately. It's ridiculous. I don't know what to believe. You watch Fox for half hour, it's like a whole nother world to watching CNN for half an hour.
It's creepy.
How could two major networks have two completely different stories going on during the day? I don't understand.
Me neither. So obviously there are some flags. For me it was 9/11
Yeah.
that really, really got me like, okay, we're all screwed. Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you think that I know you talked about propaganda. Do you think this propaganda and their tactics has brainwashed and subdued us to the point where even though if we do question these things, we're not going to do anything about it but write blogs?
Well, what else can we do? We're powerless. At least the United States, as of today, has free speech. At least we still got that going. Europe, not so much anymore. I've got some virtual English friends, some virtual German friends, some virtual Swedish friends. And let me tell you, they're not report all of the crap going on over there. We don't hear any of it. We're too busy with Stormy McDaniels and all this other crap. We don't have a clue what's going on over there. For example, the English people voted to get out of the EU. Are they still in the EU? Yeah. Their wishes are being denied right now. For example, a reporter was jailed because he wrote a story about rapes that were going on in the middle of the city by their immigrant problem, the Muslims from the Middle East that are infiltrating all of Europe. And he wrote a story and he refused to back down, and he's in jail right now.
Yeah.
So this is what's going on in Europe. We at least don't have that problem so far that at least that I know of. We can at least shoot our mouths off on our blogs or our radio shows, as you alluded to. Who knows for how much longer? Facebook already is banning people. Look what happened to Alex Jones, conspiracy king. I'm not saying I agree with everything he's ever talked about, and some of his ideas were definitely on another plane, but he's banned from Facebook? Come on.
Right.
Who's next?
See, that is the beginning of even the vanquishing free speech, right?
Yeah.
So, the conspiracy surrounds us. We're always questioning things, and that's pretty much what our country, was based upon. Was trying to defend ourselves against tyranny, defend ourselves against this kind of stuff. We're supposed to be set up to where we can, as a people, try to keep it at bay. But now it has snuck in through the back door, it's creeped through the shadows, and now it's in the Kool-Aid. So what message do you have before we shift gears and try to relate this to our paranormal listeners? What is your message to people that think that most conspiracy theorists out there are crackpots, they're just crazy, and so on? What is that message that you would like to get across?
Well, I've got a whole lot of messages, but they all come under one umbrella, and that umbrella is this: New World Order is coming. New World Order will be here very, very soon. And if that's what you think would be a great idea, well, you really need to educate yourself, because it's only a great idea for a handful of people. And the rest of us are basically their slaves or killed. Our property will be taken, our arms will be taken, and we'll be left to do the inner circle's bidding. And if we're somehow not useful enough to them, just like Hitler did, they're going to blow your brains out. So that's my message. And I personally think, the only power we really have is the ballot box. Don't vote for globalists. Don't vote for globalists, no matter how bitter of a pill it might seem at some point. You vote for a globalist, you're voting for New World Order.
That's a very scary yet important message. I think that you said it pretty good there. Okay, before we get back into this whole doomsday conspiracy stuff, which interests me a lot, because like I said, I'm 100% sure that 9/11 was a false flag deal.
Yes.
If you don't think so, I'm going to be very blunt. You are blind and completely stupid. You're just dumb. But I'm interested in what conspiracy theories and stuff you research on UFOs. Okay, it's tied into the paranormal. A lot of people who research the paranormal find intersections and parallels with aliens and UFOs. What does your research lead to when it comes to conspiracy theory and everything else under the umbrella?
Well, I wasn't so much into UFOs until I wrote my last two books, the bestseller and the sequel. The two stories go hand in hand together. And I did a lot of research about Hitler. There's where all of the UFO stuff really starts to show up. He didn't think he was the master race because he was German, even though he was Austrian and some people think he was Jewish. He thought he was the master race for other reasons that we didn't know about. That's conspiracy theory, but there's a lot of things that back me up on that statement. So we know that something went down very dirty down at Roswell, right? I think everybody, all your listeners, we all can agree this whole weather balloon story was just that. They got caught red-handed after they found a UFO and who knows how many aliens, maybe they were dead, and then they made up a story to cover it. Now that was 1947, right after World War II. Well, right after World War II, we also, in conjunction with Roswell, we also got a hold of all of Hitler's best scientists, all of them. It's called Operation Paperclip. We won't prosecute you. In exchange, you get all of the smartest guys that we have. And sure enough, we became the Fourth Reich, quite frankly. We became the superpower that we are now, not because we're so smart or we're the master race, none of that. We had the best weapons possible. How did we get so technologically savvy in such a short amount of time? I think that would be impossible unless we had other intelligence helping us out.
Yeah, that's interesting. That I've seen a lot of documentaries. I'm like a documentary buff, okay, and I've seen my fair share of the conspiracy theories and the ideas that involve the advancement of our technological aspect of our society being linked to Roswell and other UFO crashes and reverse engineering them, especially in computer power and computer powder. The computing power went like exponentially higher, and it's been now we're trying to make quantum computers. But what's really crazy is when you start dealing in with the UFO, phenomena, and the government, actually making peace treaties and stuff like that with them. What's your take on that? Because there's a lot of stuff, if you read into it and go down the rabbit hole, there's many missing people, and especially missing children all over the world in every country by the millions, and a lot of them are never found. Do you think that this ties in to any conspiracy theory with aliens and UFOs?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I went to Roswell a couple of years ago with my husband, and I was lucky enough to meet the niece of Betty. Oh gosh, I can't remember her last name. Betty and her husband. They wrote. There was a book out by them in the 60s, and they were abducted. Well, their story totally checked out. There was stuff on their car that no one ever recognized, that kind of chemical. There was chemicals on her dress that no one ever recognized. There were punctures in her body, and there's punctures in her dress. And she described it almost like someone was going up her lady parts and grabbing eggs. That's how the whole entire description was. Their story was so strong. They weren't crackpots. They were normal people. That how can you disprove that? It sounded like an abduction that went bad, that they somehow, I don't know if they got away, but something must have happened and the aliens had to flee. And some people are in it for the attention, but every now and then you get somebody it really happened to. And I couldn't agree more. They're either taking us for some reason, or they're just here and we don't know it. I don't know what their purpose is with us. I don't know if we're like a zoo to them. They're watching us for entertainment. I really don't know, but I can't believe that we're it. Out of this whole entire universe, I cannot believe that this is it. More and more, they're releasing how we're finding water and different kind of soil on Mars. So there is life out there. They don't want to come completely clean about it yet.
Yes, based on my research and resources, there are different species of aliens that are not, maybe not just, watching us and maybe has something to do with landing and dealing with our planet, but there is some that are intermixed with our society. They look just like us. Most of them have different agendas. Some of them are benign, some of them are peaceful, some of them are not. I've even heard that the reptilian species of aliens feast on children as a delicacy. I've heard this from a lot of different sources, and frankly, it terrifies me. But what really gets interesting is if it's possible that this inner circle you talk about, the New World Order or the superpowers that be, have some type of deal with this other species, and they're doing trades and agreements so they keep hush hush. I know there's even been disclosure about a lot of alien stuff in Canada a few years ago. They flat out went out and told everybody that they're studying it, that they're real, but it's just like everybody's like deer in headlights about it. And it's pretty spooky when you have a certain degree of disclosure. It's not huge. It's not, changing our society. There's no paradigm shifts happening because of it. It's creepy to me. And what type of things else did you not already say that you touch on in your new book?
Well, exactly like what you're saying. I do bring in the reptilians and this deal that you're talking about. I've definitely heard that many times. I don't know if you're familiar with, but David Icke, who famously coined the whole reptilian thing in several of his books. But back to Hitler. Hitler was in a lot of secret societies that believed that their master race, the Aryan race, was descendants from the Atlanteans. That Atlantis, the continent that Plato described in one of his essays, that many people believe was true. So Hitler had believed that his Aryan race was technically hybrids of Atlanteans, a super race, and Europeans. So again, we've got this alien link that they somehow came here and mixed with us. To get even to go back even more, we talk about the Bible. There's all those stories of fallen angels, the Watchers coming down and mating with women, and we get the super race called the Nephilim. So if you read the myths close enough, you start to wonder, are they myths, or are people writing about what they saw? And they're calling that they didn't have the vocabulary that we have now. They were calling things different names than what we call now. But when you get down to it, an angel is technically an alien. They're not from this world.
Right. Even the stuff I've researched on Sumeria, it has a lot of, they imply a lot of things about, beings coming from the sky and, worshiping them as gods. And, it looks clear to me that these are not just myths. Yeah, they have their way of personifying things and expressing it, as dogma in their culture, but Even as a paranormal researcher, a lot of the legends I research, I find out that there is some truth embedded there. Now, the truth can be skewed, or you can, exaggerate, and the retelling and telling over years can blow it all out of proportion, and you can get a lot of things mixed up. But wouldn't you agree that a lot of these religions, texts, ancient civilizations, they're actually talking about something that probably did come from another place, another world?
Absolutely. You know who else brings up this ancient culture thing? Albert Einstein. He famously talked about the texts from India that talked about nuclear explosions. And he was quoted that he and Oppenheimer and all of the rest of the nuclear bomb team were not the first to figure this out, that somebody figured it out many thousands of years before they figured it out. And they talked about it in the ancient Indian Sanskrit texts. So there's a lot to learn about these ancient texts that a lot of people dismiss as primitive people trying to explain the world. There's much more going on, and I think we're basically being lied to about when the dawn of civilization began. I think it started much, much, much longer ago than what we're told.
Yeah, I agree. Another question I had, and an interesting idea: the appearance of spacecraft and aliens visiting us at Roswell in 1947, and it seemed to line up with the use of nuclear weapons. Do you think that's a coincidence or no?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, one of Hitler's main guys, Werner von Braun, was quoted at saying several times when people would ask him how he was so smart and how he could build these rockets to go in outer space, he would say he had a little help, and then he'd look up to the sky. Now, I don't know if he was joking around, but the people he seemed to tell didn't think he was joking around at all. So we've had alien intervention the whole time, and now we're finally starting to question why the news isn't publicizing this. And I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying. Yeah, there must be some kind of arrangement where keep the public out of the loop, and we'll continue doing what we're doing.
Right. I even feel like, even though it's like a deer in headlights thing, if someone on the news flat out and came out and said, yes, there's aliens, they've been visiting since 1947, it's not all a conspiracy, have a nice day, I still think we would be like docile, and our reaction to it would be controlled. I have this creepy, eerie feeling that, we're just zombies to it. But we have a question for Dina in the chat for YouTube. Jess, do you want to go ahead and read that?
Absolutely. Buzzard asks, what do you think about the Space Force that we are supposed to have soon?
Oh, that Donald Trump was talking about?
Yes.
I think that I think that he might be onto something. Russia and China already are setting up space bases, so we can't be stuck we can't be stuck a million miles behind them in this whole entire thing. And at least if we're getting a jump on it now, maybe we have a chance if things came down to it, if we were ever invaded. I know all of this sounds like Star Wars. It sounds so ridiculous, but it was just on the news that China is setting up a camp on the dark side of the moon. So how do you compete with that? We've got to do something. I'm not a fan of spending on tax dollar where it's not needed. But if Russia and China are going to be involved, then I guess we're kind of stuck.
Yeah, they're gunning for us. They have been.
They are. They're planting flags in outer space, and if we don't start planting some flags, game over.
because no one wants to get into a world war. No one wins. And if anybody knows that more, it's Russia. They suffered the most deaths and loss from that war. We like to stay in proxy war as much as possible. But when it comes to, the Cold War, it's never truly over, in my opinion. There's a lot of stuff going on, just trying to flex our muscles economically and, like you said, put flags out in new frontiers and beyond to kind of, take control of domains that will eventually pay off and, put themselves above us eventually, like you were saying. Do you believe that religion and the conspiracy theories that deal with Catholicism and others, do you think they have a huge part in the New World Order? And if so, how?
Oh my gosh, I could go on all day. What a great question. I am religious. I just, full disclosure, I am a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe there is a God, and I do believe there's a place called heaven, and I do believe there's a place called hell. With that being said, I think in some Christian religions, I don't want to point any fingers, but lately, if you've been watching the news, the Catholic Church isn't having a real good PR moment lately. That new pope that they have is a lot more strange than previous popes. And if we back up a little bit to Pope Benedict, I don't know if he's the only pope who ever quit before he got senile or died, but he's certainly one of the few, if not the only pope that quit before his time had come, which again raises the flag. That's what's going on in that church. And then this new pope has, he has injected himself into politics. He has publicly said there should be no borders. Well, again, back to New World Order. How do you get a one world government? You get rid of borders. So he wanted to change the Lord's Prayer, which who is anybody to change what was written so long ago? That now, once you get into editing ancient texts, you're trying to change the message. So I don't trust him. I think there's more conspiracy behind him. I certainly don't have a whole lot to go on, just what the news says, but there's definitely something a little off about this guy. And then there's, of course, the prophecy by the ancient Irish monk called Malachi, who describes Pope Francis as the last pope. So what that means, I don't know, but a lot of people interpret that prophecy as this guy is it. And per the Bible, the last pope might help the Antichrist form a one world.
Yeah, that's not scary at all. Yeah, that I this whole subject matter is fascinating to me because it all goes back to when you're a child and you're scared of what's under your bed or what's in the shadows in your closet, and your mother and father come in and tell you, "Oh, it's nothing, go to sleep." It's almost like that is that's who we are now. The government is telling us, "Oh, there's nothing under the bed or in the closet. Go back to sleep." But
right.
In the actuality, there is. And what's funny about that is, when we research hauntings and stuff like that, we discover that there's things in the shadows. We discover that there's monsters out there. There's things beyond your wildest imagination. And it's kind of really silly that we can, even for a moment, think that we know what's out there. We can measure the magnitude of what's possible. And when you start thinking about that, you start opening your mind more. And it's scary that a lot of people out there, the conformity out there is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And the people who are free thinkers and open-minded people, and people like yourselves that try to not so much, go to the fringe, but say, hey, look, we call these things out. It's madness. What do you do when you come across something in present time that seems like there's a huge conspiracy around it? Does it inspire you to write a new book? Do you try to work it into your texts? What's happened recently that you would like to talk about?
Well, I think we are living in the strangest times in my lifetime, anyway. And I'm in my 40s, and I I mean, all of these we've got protests going on every week. I've never seen anything like it. I guess it was like that in the 60s. I'm not real sure, but my mom says no, there were protests and all that, but nothing like today. And like we were talking about earlier, these these colleges are really starting to go one direction of thinking, which, you know, I thought college was about free thought from all sides, whether you like hate speech or not, whatever. Even to that level, I thought that was what college was about. And right now, our schools are starting to indoctrinate young people. They're trying to cut off, I think, a lot of the free thinking, especially in the colleges. I don't know so much about high school. High school is more facts and figures and that kind of thing. And the colleges are just they're going in one direction right now, and I don't know if that's a fair service to a young person who's paying a lot of money for an education. I think there's a reason for that. I really do think there's some indoctrination going on.
Oh, that's an understatement, in my opinion.
Yeah,
The indoctrination.
it's like almost like a brainwashing going on now.
Oh yeah, I feel it. I know it in my every fiber of my being.
I feel that too. I don't. There's a lot of TV shows that I don't watch because they're not really a sitcom. They're not really a drama. They're sending a message, and I'm leery.
Yes, popular culture, all the high paid actors and actresses, the musicians, people know, people see. We have some questions on Facebook. If Missy wants to address them real quick, and then we got a few questions for Dina on YouTube. Missy, you want to go ahead and read off some of those questions that I see there?
Yeah, I only have a couple so far.
Mhm.
Diana wants to know why do you think the government is afraid to let the public know what is going on?
Well, I think our government is at a crossroads right now. And our president is a character, to say the least. Whether you like him or hate him, he is not in the in crowd. I think we can all agree on that.
I do.
So whether you like him, whether you hate him, he ain't no hero, he ain't no saint. That's a fact.
He's a wild card.
Exactly. He is exactly a wild card. You couldn't have said it better. They don't know what to make of him. And he is calling it like he sees it, which is threatening the status quo. So right now, our government is trying to shut him down, shut him out of business, impeach him, do whatever the heck they can to get him out. Because he's got his own following, and it's dangerous. They don't know how to stomp this bug that has started to infest their little cabal, shall we say. And I mean, I'm not going to say I love Trump. He's kind of a jerk, but I do think he does have a witch hunt going against him right now, like I've never seen. I thought Clinton was kind of getting the bad rap in the 90s with that girl, and what he does in his private life is what he does in his private life. Why this would have to go to an impeachment trial was beyond me. But that's nothing. That's nothing. What Trump is going through with, this girl he slept with and that girl he slept with, and some Facebook collusion things on Facebook, whatever. I've never. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and we've got the CIA guy going on all these talk show radios trashing him. I mean, this doesn't even seem professional.
Oh, professionalism went out the door a while ago.
And again, he's a wild card, and he's not exactly the best statesman in the world, but he's getting beaten up pretty bad by the swamp. He said he's going to take down the swamp. I think they're taking him down.
Well, like you said, he's probably not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and he's getting played a little bit, but they're still terrified of this man because of the power and influence that he has. No one in the political under the political umbrella thought that he would win. And when he did, boy, did everybody freak out. Jess, let's go through the questions on YouTube real quick.
Sure. There was a question do you think there's a connection between the spirit world and aliens?
Oh, absolutely. You guys could probably answer this way better than me, but absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I watch Ancient Aliens all the time, and they talk about the Akashic Record, which seems like a meeting point between spirits and aliens. It's somehow when people get sudden knowledge that they can't explain, like Leonardo da Vinci, for example. He'd go into that cave, and then he'd have an idea for an airplane or something. They call is that souls giving him the information? Is that aliens? There's an intelligence that some people can tap into in that's in another dimension.
Yeah, what's fascinating is Nikola Tesla said similar things about the knowledge he obtained, and a lot of people believe that have psychic abilities. They believe that they get information from either aliens or the spirit realm. One that rings a bell in the paranormal field is Joe Sumption. Joe Sumption. He created the first spirit box, and he believed that it allowed him to communicate with aliens. And of course, other paranormal researchers and ITC researchers use it to try to speak to actual spirits, but no one really knows what they're talking to. They could be one and the same. But it's an interesting question. If you want my take on it, there are distinctions between beings that aren't that are actually alive, but don't share the same quality when it comes to matter and being in our plane of existence. Now, if they're on higher planes of existence, yes, they can interact with ours if they have the technology and the ability to, but the physics is not going to be the same, and they can be spirit-like. Now, there's spiritual stuff out there that cross over into our plane, and there's other transient planes, so they're related, but I don't believe that they're the same thing. I don't know, Dina, is that kind of what you think?
Yeah, that's a great way of explaining it. Yeah, absolutely. There is some kind of parallel universe, other plane, whatever the correct semantics is that we don't really understand, but it's there. We can't deny that it's there.
Well, a lot of people try to deny it, that it's there. There's a lot of people out there that just live in a box and they're comfortable there, mainly due to fear. If they for 1 second believed that all this stuff was possible or even true, they probably wouldn't sleep a wink at night. And you can't really blame them, but it's our culture and our society that we can blame for that, not allowing us to have a little bit more free thinking and open-mindedness. We learn from, textbooks, that are written, and, there's curriculums and standards in our education and our culture. And, it's not, there's really no room for metaphysics, for conspiracy theory, for, kneeling on a football field when the anthem is being, played. I have feelings about that. A lot of people like to use it as weapons against, things they don't understand. But we live in an interesting time now. I know I asked you about what you think about what's happening now. What do you think about the division from the right and the left in our country? And do you think that there is some type of conspiracy, dividing this country right now? And what's the agenda behind that?
I do think there is a conspiracy in division, because when there is division, you don't get anything done. Unity, you get things done, and division, you don't. I think that, this whole race card, this whole, the gay card, all of that, I think that's been overplayed just a little too much. And I'm frankly, quite sick of it. We've got a few people out there who are really good at whipping certain individuals into a fury. And, this anger, I don't, these football players, I'm sorry, they're not I don't mean to be rude, but most of them aren't the brightest guys in the world. Some of them are real smart. Most of them aren't. They're being used right now. They're being used. When they're saying they're oppressed, do they know how ridiculous that sounds as they go home to their $10 million mansion with their garage filled with 10, luxury cars, and, off season go on trips around the world and all this stuff? I don't, how could you even think that? How could you say that? Since someone could figure out you could tackle another person or toss a ball perfectly or whatever their great talent is, people have been kissing their ass their whole life, their entire life. So when you sit there and say you're oppressed, since you're a little boy, you've been treated more special than anyone that I know.
Right. I think some of the players are just doing it because of, it's not only them, but it's, others are feeling oppressed, and it's maybe not, dealing with things that they have experienced, but what they observe. And that I kind of understand, but you really need to convey, like you said, they're not very smart about how they convey their protesting. They just kind of kneel, and they really don't speak out. They don't write blog posts. They don't do speeches. They don't, they're not very articulate. So it's not the smartest way, like you said. But
wait, can I
yeah, go ahead.
interject?
Yeah.
I'm not a football fan, to say the least. So, not watching football for me is great, because my husband finally isn't watching it, so we have a life right now on Sunday. But I wanted to throw in that when it was all over the news a couple of years ago that this guy beat up his girlfriend, and this guy raped a woman, and this guy, we all remember Michael Vick and his, little dog fighting ring, and this guy crashed into somebody from a DUI, and this guy this and that guy that. Nobody gave 2 cents. Nobody. And then, oh my gosh, I'm not standing for the flag. And then, oh, well, I'm never watching football again. There's a little hypocrisy going on there. The violence stuff that they were doing, no problem. Not standing for that flag, oh my gosh, I'm never watching them again. Like all the other stuff was okay.
Well, I did notice that the NFL kind of like raised the severity of their consequence when it comes to like domestic violence, for example, and drug use and enhancement drug use, but they don't have any stance on the whole kneeling thing. But when I do agree with you what you said, the hypocrisy of the outrage of the community and the country. When this stuff happens, they don't. It's almost like they followed suit with the agenda that was placed by the media.
Yep. Yeah, tools.
So that's another thing I wanted to get into before we wrap this up. We have a few minutes left, but we're not on a network, so we're not on a time restraint. I really do want to know what you think, because I know you've researched this quite a bit. When it comes to the media, how much do you think it controls what we think and what we know? I know you touched on it before. Who do you think is it the New World Order that, tries to manipulate, the mainstream media? I know there's no such thing as mainstream media anyway. What do you think about this? That's another question. What do you think about? Okay, let's reframe this question here so I don't confuse you. How much impact do you think the media has on how we think and how we react to things when it comes to outrage and controversial things? And do you think that the media is no longer mainstream now that there's multifaceted things that are manipulating us from different agendas? And go.
The media is, you're 100% right. The media is not the media. The media is a giant corporation. As I'm sure you already know, Rupert Murdoch owns 80-90% of the media, and then a couple other guys own the rest. We're not getting individual little indie type of news stations anymore. We are getting, and then look at the content. Every single major network doesn't have a headline news like they used to in the old days. They have commentaries. And it's done the same. They both, they have different stories to tell, but they always have the same format: the outrage story, and then a panel of experts to hem and haw about how outrageous the story was. And it's like they're the repetition of it all, and the outrage of it all, and the acting of it all. It's like a whole formula is supposed to piss you off. And you know what? It does. It works. I see some of this story and I'm like, that's ridiculous. And then I'm thinking, is it? Is it even true? Calm down. You don't even know if this is true or not.
Right.
And, I couldn't agree with you more. We need to have, we need to, like we busted up AT&T decades ago. We need to bust up these media corporations, because all it is just a high level Joseph Goebbels, Hitler, Nazi Reich type of news format. That's really all it is. It's done at a more civilized manner, but it's still the same exact thing. Our thoughts are being controlled, and I can't believe that it's even legal. We've got Facebook, a private corporation, who can ban anybody.
Yep.
Is that right?
Well, that's a very good question, because now major media news outlets like Facebook can be controlled now because it's private. And what interests me is I thought I was going to be a journalist. I was going to be a writer right out of high school. I had a staff writing job in my local newspaper, and I learned from a very good, journalism teacher how journalism worked. But when I look at that now, and I look at what's going on now, it's not journalism, like you said. There's no sign of journalism to be seen anywhere, and it freaks me out. So I just hope people see it, and I really want you guys to consider reading some of Dina Rae's books that I'm going to have her talk about now. Why don't you let the viewers know where to get your books? I think I have some links available in the description, but I want you to lead them to where they can find your books.
Well, you can always find every single one of my books on Amazon. My publisher, Solstice Publisher, you could go through them too. But Amazon is probably the easiest. Some are sold on Barnes and Noble, some are sold in Walmart, some are sold on iTunes Books. But Amazon is the tried and true place to go. As we're talking about conspiracies, Amazon is taking over the entire retail world. So that's where you go. I have an Amazon page, Dina Rae, DinaRae. I have a blog, Dina Rae's Right Stuff.blogspot.com, and the right is spelled WRITE. And I have a Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Halo of the Damned. You can find me on Google Plus, Dina Rae. You can find me on Reddit. You can find me on Facebook, Dina Rae Books. I'm pretty about the only one I don't do is Instagram, and I'm on YouTube as well. The Instagram, I think, is the only one that I haven't set up yet. Again, my two newest ones are the bestseller and the sequel. I've gotten great reviews on them. So please feel free to check them out if you like aliens and Hitler and that kind of thing. Ancient Aliens, I've been compared to Ancient Aliens several times. Those are great ones for you.
Awesome. Real quick, there is some questions on Facebook that I see that I want to ask you real quick. They want to know what you think about the Illuminati. Is it tied in with the New World Order, or is that a separate thing?
That's absolutely connected. The Illuminati is definitely the inner circle. A lot of groups like the Freemasons are connected with the Illuminati. Other secret societies, Rose of Dawn is connected to the Illuminati. We've got most of your major secret societies have connections with the Illuminati. And, they supposedly started in the 1700s, but a lot of people think that they were around way before that.
Right on. Dina, I would like to thank you for coming on the show. I could probably talk to you for several hours, but we're going to leave it for an hour this time. If you're interested in coming back on, I might do a whole... I'm thinking once I do this hour format for a while, I might change formats, and then I'll do several others. Would you be interested in coming back and doing a longer format on these subject matters?
Justin, I would love to come on your show. You and your crew are just so hospitable and just wonderful, easy to talk to, great conversationalists, very knowledgeable. You guys are wonderful.
Well, thank you.
I'm also a fan. Absolutely.
I'm flattered. Thank you. Yes, please check out her books. I really have a feeling that she may have her finger on the pulse of many conspiracy theories. I actually think that someone tried to hack me because I was having Dina on, because that was strange to me. Yep. My Facebook was hacked as soon as I went live with Dina. So you can mark that up as coincidence. I'm not sure about that. So that's a little creepy, but thanks again for being on the show. If you want to, you can hang out in the video call while I end the show and do some video promotions, or you can jump off here and I can just get a hold of you later. But just don't be a stranger, and stay close by, because I may have questions. I may want to get some of your books. But thank you for being on.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, there you have it. Dina Rae, very, very, very interesting. So I want to cut this short real quick and get into the video promotions, but I want to let you guys know that if you want to support the content that we do, and you want to see this content continue, grow, become better, please consider being a patron on patreon.com/support interface death. The names you see on the screen make this content possible, guys. All the live investigations we do, the live streams, the video productions we do on our website and on YouTube, everything that we do is supported through Patreon right now. Okay, Christy Brown, Clay Borman, Matthew Jackson, Matt Benton, Bill Davis, Gwendolyn Guthrie, Scott Stewart, Jessica Bias, R.J. Murphy, Liz Coy, and Danette Goldtrip are all supporting us right now. So if you want to see more guests come on the show, if you want to see more live streams, more stuff from Interface Death and myself, please consider becoming a patron. We appreciate our patrons very much. And with that being said, thanks again for being on the show. We will be at Hannah House Paranormal Day Celebration this weekend. If you're in the area in Indianapolis, Indiana, please come by our booth and check it out. The information is on our social media. You should have got a shout out if you're subscribed to our website, which is interfacedeath.net. If you did not know, please go check that out. Please consider subscribing if you're not subscribed, following us on Facebook if you're not following, hitting the icon on YouTube so you can get notified when we go live. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys very much. You're in my heart. I love you very much. Please join us next week for my Paranormal Soapbox and the Necromancer live show. I will see you next time. You guys have a good evening. Stick around for the video promotions if you have not seen them. You guys take it easy.